Yeah, I got
Lincoln was
Lincoln,
a
and
good
I feel
movie.
like Nightcrawler's in the books. I feel like
I like
Nightcrawler's in the
Nightcrawler. Let's
books.
talk about it. Tier
Yeah, head
three,
into movie three.
Nightcrawler from 2014, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo. I always enjoy Rene Russo. Riz Ahmed and Bill Paxton, who I definitely always enjoy. And it made me sad because he died recently, and this was probably the first
Yeah.
movie I've seen since then that showed like an older Bill Paxton. So that was kind of sad. And directed by Dan Gilroy.
Yes, this was Dan Gilroy's directorial debut, if you will.
That was a
Um,
strong opening debut, that's for sure.
yeah. So before I pop into the plot, give you a little breakdown and synopsis here. Just give me your initial thoughts on Nightcrawler. What did you think?
You gonna hit the trailer?
Oh my God, I always forget about that part. Ah, I'm gonna remember this soon enough. I swear.
I'll start hitting the trailers. You start doing the synopsises because you're better at it.
Maybe that'll be the case. Do you see access to
Mm.
this? I don't know. Much like this trailer, it's fast paced.
I'm looking for a job. In fact, I've made up my mind to find a career that I can learn and grow into. Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals, and I've been told that I'm persistent.
And I'm thinking, television news might just be something I love, as well as something I happen to be good at.
Oh, he was so haunting.
Now, I know that today's work culture no longer caters to the job loyalty that could be promised to earlier generations. What I believe is that good things come to those who work their asses off. And that good people who reach the top of the mountain didn't just fall there. My motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket. You have to make the money to buy a ticket!
Those weren't even scenes from the movie. A lot of that trailer was bullshit.
No, that's what I loved about this. Okay, so apparently when they
You're
were
not allowed to
filming
do
this,
that anymore.
no. Okay, so get
There's
this
recently
right.
a law passed. That was an illegal trailer. We're gonna get taken down.
So basically, what happened was when they were filming the movie. I'm just gonna give this little movie morsel up front,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's apropos. Uh, Basically, what happened is Jake Gyllenhaal decided to say that line. If you want a ticket to buy a movie, you got to make the money. He said that line in every scene they filmed because he knew it would probably cut really well together for a trailer. But he only says it once in the film, which is at the beginning of the film, which also happens to be my favorite scene. So, yeah. So we got
My opening
we got
thoughts. You asked me about my opening thoughts. My opening thoughts
yeah.
about this movie is there were at least 10 times when I wanted to shut it off, and I couldn't. So that's a strength of the movie. Because the
You
reasons
wanted
I
to
wanted
shut
to
it
shut it
off, but
off,
you're like, ah, it's too.
yeah, it's just like, but it's interesting enough that you want early. It it's a bit of an engrossing movie in a way, but here's where it fails for me. Well, I'll get into that maybe later, but I will say in this opening thought, I generally don't care for Jake Gyllenhaal in movies. Even as Mysterio, a character I love. I mean, I was fine with his portrayal of Mysterio, but in the comics, like I love Mysterio. But like I don't like Donnie Darko, and I haven't really enjoyed the things I've seen Jake Gyllenhaal in. So there's that. So they have that working against it. Two, I generally don't like movies that are 2 hours long, where 90% of it is a character I don't like. Yeah, there you have it.
This used to talk, but I guess
But
the
like,
batteries are dead, isn't it?
but like, I hated his character. You're supposed to, but like, I'd rather follow for 2 hours a character I like in some way, and that's not what this was. And the other place where actually I will say it now, where I feel like it failed is it's too much Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Like
It is a lot of Jake Gyllenhaal.
I'm gonna
It is.
spoil a plot point in the movie here for a second, but when there comes a point where he kills his coworker, his buddy.
That's a pretty big plot point, but yeah.
Well, whatever. We're here and we're spoiling everything on this show. But my point is, there's no reason to care that he did that. They don't give us one scene with that Riz Ahmed character to make us care about him. Like there wasn't one scene where he's not like just being the guy next to Jake Gyllenhaal and just
I
doing
wouldn't
what
say
he
that.
says.
No, I wouldn't
would.
say that.
I did.
would say
I
that.
would. They didn't like.
I
They
would say
should have
there's
gave
a
us
couple-
one
there's a-
scene with him in his regular life away from Jake Gyllenhaal.
Well, okay, but his
Even
regular
that
life
would've
is
gone.
he's homeless. You know, like that's
Show us
that's the
that.
whole thing. You know that's fair. I mean, okay, yeah, that maybe.
Like, there's no
maybe
reason
an
to
extra
care
scene.
about anybody. There's no reason to care about Bill Paxton except for that I love Bill Paxton. There's no reason to care about Rene Russo. There's definitely no reason to care about Jake Gyllenhaal's character, but that's the point.
Well, that's
But
that's the whole
that's the
point of the
point.
film. You're
Yeah,
not supposed to
that's the
care
point.
about anyone. It's his point of view. It's the point of view of a sociopath.
Exactly, but if the whole movie is just him basically terrorizing everyone around.
he's not even terrorizing anyone around him.
He-
He's just out to
He
gain for
absolutely is
himself and
terrorizing
himself.
everyone around him.
No, he's not terrorizing. He's gaining for himself.
He's
He's just doing
terrorizing
it.
Rene Russo.
He's not terrorizing Rene Russo. Okay, he is
Forcing
terrorizing
somebody
Rene-
into sex, threatening her job, doing all this shit.
It's not that he's
He's not
threatening her.
terrorizing. He's not terrorizing the guy he hires and then makes do illegal shit. This is terrorizing. He's not terrorizing people by like forcing crimes to happen. He's not terrorizing cops by sending them into situations where they're going to get killed. He is a living, breathing terrorist. And all he does in this movie is terrorize other people for his own gain. He's a complete narcissist. I hate narcissists. So like this character pisses me off.
See,
He's
I
just
just
a-
looked at
I'm
him
watching
as
a narcissist
sociopath.
be a
I never really
narcissist.
considered him a terrorist. But I
Yeah,
guess
likely
if you
so.
put
He's
it-
likely well, yeah, he's a sociopath, but he's terror. He's committing acts of terrorism all over the place. And like,
Okay, well, this is getting to be more than quick thoughts. This is just you getting to fucking
Right.
blow your brains out
Sweet.
about how much you hated this film. So how about you shut up for 2
I
minutes?
do
and let
hate
me get
this
to
film. I told you I couldn't turn it off.
So we start off with some chain link fence breaking action where Jake Gyllenhaal is seemingly cutting.
It's
open
trying
the
to be
fence.
too cool, though. I think that's my problem. It's trying to be too cool.
It's a Dan Gilroy film, man. I don't know what to tell
Doesn't
you.
mean anything
Like,
to me.
It's 2014. Everything's trying to be cool post 2000s. You're just
guess.
yeah. Anyway,
What I just
so
appreciate though is it's not super exploitive like the last movie, because
yeah, no, it's
Mo-
I
what-
mean, it is exploitive in certain degrees, but it's
Yes.
got a driven
I just
story
mean-
and a point. Like it's
I just
not
mean in the way, like,
pointless.
the way I often rag on modern movies for being, like how I predicted everything exploitive in Atomic Blonde that would happen before it happened. Like in most modern movies, you would have seen sex scenes with him and Rene Russo. 100% you would. But in this, they didn't go there, and I appreciated that. So like it's not trying to be too sexy and too cool, you know what I mean? It didn't push that too far for me.
Cool. All right. Cool. So, the film starts with Jake Gyllenhaal cutting open some chain link fence, which I was a little confused about. I was trying to figure out why he was doing this, since the other side of the fence had no chain link fence. I'm like, well, he's not trying to cut through it. He's not trying to go through somewhere. I thought this is where his filmmaking
explained.
journeys. But he ultimately gets caught by security as he's stealing steel. He's a thief. He's trying to get scrap metal. He assaults the security guard and takes the watch, which is, meant to be a thing, so you don't feel sympathy for this character. Dan Gilroy did not want any point where you would feel sympathy for the arc of this character.
Which is
they
good,
were to
which
give-
is why I didn't shut this movie off for sure.
Yeah, like they didn't want to give him a backstory or any of that. They're just like, nope, this is his moment. This is the life. So he proceeds to, get to the scrapyard, and he, at this point, you start to see that this character is very persistent and driven, and he wants to succeed at things by any means necessary.
He has read like every book on that type of thing possible. Like he's constantly quoting motivational speeches in like
Yeah.
business tactics and things you read in like how to do well in business and like these types of books. Like he reads all of that shit.
Yeah, so while he's trying to sell himself to try it and potentially get a job at the scrapyard, he's like, listen, I'll even intern. you know, if it would mean getting my foot in the door. And this scrapyard owner is just like, I don't hire thieves. And Jake Gyllenhaal just nods his head and walks out the door and proceeds to drive away.
What was his game there, though? Why would he want an internship at a scrapyard? It makes no sense to his character.
Because well,
Like
that's
he's looking
the thing.
for avenues. He's looking for somewhere to find success, but an internship at a scrapyard is not that.
Well, when you're in, have you ever been to Los Angeles?
No, I probably
Okay,
never.
I've been to Los Angeles for a brief 24-hour period, and that was a hellscape in and of itself. If you're living in Los Angeles trying to make money any way you possibly can, you're looking for any means necessary to make a job. So he's thinking, oh, maybe I can work at a scrapyard and I'll have some sort of income. So he's just trying to find a job. This is more or less nothing more than to show you that he's trying to find work by any
Yeah.
means necessary. That's why he's trying to become an intern at a scrapyard. He's looking for any means necessary to get money. He wants to be a successful individual. He wants to buy the money. He wants to make the money to buy the lottery ticket, as he says, you know. But, you know, the scrapyard dealer turns him down, so he proceeds to drive away. And in his driving,
he's like, dude, I'm not hiring a thief. You're here
Yeah.
selling me stolen shit. Like, you know,
exactly. Yeah, I don't
That's
hire
pretty
thieves. And he smiles and he walks away and he proceeds to drive away. And in
Yeah.
his contemplative driving, he comes across what appears to be a highway accident. And he decides to become a looky-loo. He pulls over and he just sees what goes on. And as that happens, a news van comes up, and that's when we get introduced to Bill
Pax!
Paxton's character.
Yeah, the packs.
And he comes out and he starts filming, and he tells the other guy to get another angle, and it seems very vulturistic and very gross. And for an individual like myself, I am a freelance filmmaker. The entire nature of this film, I was immediately hooked. I was immediately drawn into oh my God, I get the run and gun filming and trying to make money any way you can, but this is bottom of the barrel scumbag in my opinion. You are filming people at the worst
Paxton
moments.
even says that. He's
Yeah.
like, he's like, how's this job anyway? He's just like, it's a flaming asshole of a job.
Yeah, it's a flaming asshole of job. And you know, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Lou, he sees Bill Paxton and he sees wait, this guy seems to be making money off this. He's getting a look at his system. He's getting a look at his gear. He's paying attention to the police radio. And he's like, yeah, are you hiring? And Bill Paxton's like, fuck no, I'm not hiring.
Yes.
Get out of my face.
Which is
You know?
hilarious because very shortly after this, he is hiring.
Well, yeah, no, after, not so much shortly, but a few months after this initial incident, because he's not paying attention. He doesn't give a fuck about, you know, random Lou Bloom. But Lou Bloom goes home and he turns on the news and he sees Bill Paxton's footage getting put on TV, and he's like, wow, it's true. This guy got paid money for this. I could probably do this. I could probably go out
Well, that's
there.
the thing.
So,
It's approachable on the entry level. Like you can just pull up at a fucking accident and, you know, shoot it with your camera.
you
And,
got
like,
good footage. You can sell that
you
to a
don't need a
news
way in.
station.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole thing called stringers down there that do this. It's very much a culture of thing. Apparently Jake Gyllenhaal
Also called them
and-
ambulance chasers. Oh no, wait, that's lawyers.
No, that's lawyers, but you know, calling these guys ambulance chasers wouldn't be the worst
Same
title.
thing. No.
Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed actually followed the guys around for 2 weeks to get a feel of what the job was like.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, they you know, he sees the news on the TV, so he's like, all right, I need to get into the game. So how does a thief get into the game? He steals a high-end bicycle. He sits there and he waits for one, and sure enough, this dude comes by with an $8,000 bicycle. You wouldn't think that, but it probably was. And he tries to sell it to this guy at the pawn shop.
Which is hilarious because he
having
puts
none
the
of it.
hipster ponytail in first. He's like, now I look like a bike hipster, right? I have my
Yeah,
little high
exactly, yeah.
ponytail.
Throws in the top knot just to really
yeah,
sell
the
it.
top knot.
Tries to sell the bike. The pawn shop's like, no, I'll give you $500 at best.
This
It's
scene
okay,
was
how about-
funny, actually. I found this scene very funny. He's like, look,
Yeah.
this is 37 speeds. I won the Tour de Mexico in this beast. He's like,
I
dude,
won the
there is
Tour
no
de
bike with 37 speeds. He's like,
He couldn't
stop
sell it, so
whining.
he's like, all right, how about some store
Yeah.
credit? Give me a camera and a police scanner. So that's all he needs. That's the start. He's like, boom, all right. And he's literally trying to figure out how to use this camera as he's sticking it in the faces of cops doing like breathalyzer tests and like simple run overs. And he's not quite getting like where he needs to go until he ultimately.
Disputes and shit. Like there's just a family outside talking to the cops because there was like a domestic dispute. And he's just there.
Yeah, he's like
It's just
just
like,
getting in their
dude.
face because he's like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
So get the fuck out of here, man. What are you nuts?
Yeah,
So
what are you
eventually he does
doing?
come across an accident where he's over he's sort of it's this scene really stuck out to me. I wish I got a screenshot before, but he's behind the first camera guy on scene, and he just sort of like looks at his own camera, and then he looks at the other guy's camera, and then he looks back at his camera, and I know that feeling. I've had that feeling. Every camera
This
guy
camera
has that
sucks.
feeling. Every camera guy has that feeling when they first started getting into filmmaking. You know, you're just like, oh, I'm not doing this right at all. You know, so he was, he's kind of over shoulder shooting, and then he breaks away and he sticks it in the face of this poor person getting down. Eventually, cops get pissed off, push him out of the scene, ruins it for both of them, and guy gives him grief. But he gets the tip that goes to KTLA to sell it. So he gets to the news program, gets into the news station somehow. I don't know how the fuck he just walks into this place.
Well, they
but
likely
he's
have
just
freelancers walking in there fairly often.
maybe, but like he has to definitely have signed in or something. Like I've been through a news station or two. You have to like go through a whole sign-in process. They made it just seem like you walked in. But yeah, he comes into Rene Russo's character here, and she asks him, like what do you got on the tape? And he's like, oh, I think I have something you're gonna want to see. And that's where he proceeds to show her his first footage, which is this crash. He's like, wow, this is a great eye. They strike a deal. He's like, how much? He's like, I want $1,000, which I laughed at. I was like, yeah, we all want $1,000. Yeah, she's like,
She's
no,
like, I'll give you like
seriously.
$150.
Yeah, he's like, here's like $300, and then that starts him off, and he's hooked, and he proceeds to start making like a database of his own fucking twisted clips, and
Yeah.
being the psychopath he is, he starts going full tilt. He starts learning codes. He starts, watching shows, watering his plant, getting on his routine, and he hires Riz Ahmed's character and Rich.
He was ironing, not watering his plant.
Wiring is he's watering plants, but he's also ironing. That there's a handful of scenes prior to this where he's doing daily life routine stuff, and it shows that he's building upon what he's doing. So he decides that he needs a second hand to make himself more accessible and faster to get the
He
things
never
sorted.
intends to pay.
He never intends to pay. He calls in Riz Ahmed's character, who's played by Rich. It plays the character of Rich. He's this homeless character. He's Jake Gyllenhaal's like, you trick. He's like, I don't, not often if I don't have to. Sort
He's
of.
like straight guy's trick.
Yeah, straight guy's trick. It happens.
Yeah.
This is LA. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. And he's like, it's an internship, but it's got good growth and opportunity. And Rich is like, I can't. Again, which is a very, very film freelancer. It's like, I can't do this. I need some money, So he ultimately offers him $30 a night, which I again
Stay up
laughed
all
out
friggin'
very
night.
hard at. Like
Stay up all
$30
friggin'
a night, for all friggin' night. And he's like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. And he hops on board. So these guys start sticking together, and while they're filming this, apparently they would stay up all night and eat like energy drinks and snacks and stuff to give that really strung out look while they're doing their whole like spiel. But they finally get their first call together. Rich is all confused and he's pressured by it. And they're trying to get to the spot, but they get there too late. And Bill Paxton rubs it in Jake Gyllenhaal's face, which these two have a heart to heart. And this is another scene that I really liked. And it was probably, if I didn't pick the scene, which I did pick, I would have picked this one. And I kind of wish I did pick this one. This scene I liked because he's like losing it at Rich, but he's also like, listen, I'm an understandable man, and communication is the key to success. And I just
always
need to know.
does that
with
with Rich, though. That's manipulative, like gaslighting bullshit. Like
it is manipulative gaslighting bullshit, but it was also presented in kind of ways like, okay, he's kind of crazy, but he's also understanding because Rich goes, he's just like, just don't rush me, and he's like, don't rush you. Okay, I can work with that. I won't rush you. And he proceeds to have like he understands that, and they proceed to have a working relationship. So they go on to the next scene, and he comes
I mean,
across
that's
this
just
like,
a part of his manipulation of that character. Like
yeah, it is
he,
a part of his manipulation. I'm not saying, it's he's
he
not
always compliments
manipulating
him a
him.
little. He's just throwing out those little like carrots
Yeah, but
before he
like
beats him
it's
to death
those
with a stick.
things, it's those moments in the character that make you kind of want to be like, okay, maybe, okay, I can relate to that character. I could relate to this character up to a certain point in this film. And it's when he
Yep.
starts like breaking into the people's homes and like moving their pictures next to bullet holes and getting inside shots, and that's when
And
it starts
especially
picking
when
up for him.
he shows up to that motor vehicle accident and like the guy like dead or dying on the road wasn't in the shot he wanted, so he grabs him by the feet and like drags him into a better
That's coming
shot.
up, right? That's
It's
coming
like
up.
what?
That's an like this is the first scene before that. This is the scene where he starts manipulating. He starts like getting into the scene a little more and pushing things around like pictures and
Oh yeah,
stuff
on the
and
fridge.
getting
Yeah.
getting really grimy, and like this producer guy who he's just like, no, this isn't right, but Rene Russo's like, whatever. Now this scene between them, he basically starts laying out his grand master plan of how he wants to run LA's biggest news production on the street coverage, and he's gonna run this business and all these things that he's gonna get and he's gonna want. And he's telling Rene Russo's character this, and she's just kind of like awestruck by it. So he goes into horror with the Echo Park, and then it's just one thing after another, which leads to him getting a brand new car. And it's been months, and it's been like 2 months of time where he's been getting news stories and he's getting paid to the point where he gets a new car. And I gotta think to yourself, like, has this guy been getting $30 a night for 2 months? This guy gets a brand
Yes.
new Dodge Charger, and he's like, "Yeah, $30 a night's still good." And
He
that's what
mentions that to
happens.
him. Riz Ahmed
Yep.
character mentions that to him. He's like, "You keep getting all this shit. I need a raise." You know.
Yeah, and there's this one scene where he's like, bed,
But we
bath,
keep talking
and
about my
beyond.
performance review. Where's my performance review?
Yeah, I know, right? So this is the
There he
scene
is
where
dragging the
they get
guy.
they get ahead of the cops, and this is his first like getting ahead of the cops. So he's like, okay, so he drags the
Head
guy into a
fast.
better lighting, and just and this is where I'm out. This is the moment of the movie where I'm like, okay, this is not, you shouldn't be doing these things, and this is also the moment in the movie where I'm like, my heart is in my throat. I'm on the edge of my seat because I'm like, what is this guy doing? And he gets the shot, and he knows he's got the shot, and he's got gold, and he walks past Bill Paxton's character, who's like, what's happening here? He gets his money, and he basically goes to Rene Russo, is like, let's have dinner. And they proceed to have dinner, even though she's spotting blood on her shirt, and he seems very sus. And we get the whole scene with Bill
And that's
Paxton
when
and
he
Rene
exploits
Russo.
her into sex.
Yeah. And Bill Paxton's character attempts to come to Jake Gyllenhaal's character and offer him, he's getting another van, he's going to do a multi thing. And Jake Gyllenhaal's like, yeah, no, I'm going to keep going my own way. Louis Bloom is going to ride his own ship into the sunset. So while doing that, he has dinner with Rene Russo's character, and this was very Dennis from the Always Sunny. He talks this woman into sex. There's a hard implication that's never shown, which is what I loved about this film. Like, it's
I
not.
like that they
I
didn't
didn't.
show it.
I love that
It's
they
more than
didn't show it.
implied.
It's
He's like,
very.
next
It's
time I'm at your house, you're gonna do the things I ask you to. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Next time
very
we're alone, you're
gross.
gonna do
It's
things. Yeah,
very
that's like the
gross.
big scene. But yeah, he immediately after this scene where he goes from the dinner and he's demanding that they basically have sex, like it's gonna happen one way or another. You don't get
Yeah.
any of that payoff visually, but it's all implied, which well done, masterful
Yeah.
storytelling.
That's
We get to
better.
the next one where he gets nothing and he comes back to her and she rips into him and he knows it and he's got garbage. So it proceeds for him, which is one of the better scenes where he freaks out at this fucking mirror and breaks it in such a manner that it like lands.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
was
such a good scene.
cliche. Like that shows to show that he hit his breaking point. So the mirror broke. That was too on the nose. Like that kind of visual shit only works in comic books. It was
Well,
just too on the nose.
I think it was a great
Yeah.
shot. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool scene. I was like, I was a dope
It's
shot.
like
I
somebody
watched that
becoming
shot and I thought it was dope.
cold-hearted in a movie and opening up a freezer. It's like, yes, because they have a cold heart now. It's like, it's just too obvious. That was a silly scene. I actually rolled my eyes when he smashed that mirror.
No, I like that one. Apparently, he cut his hand really badly on that scene. Um, Yeah, and then they lead to where he decides to take out Bill Paxton's character by doing a little automotive alterations to his van.
Indeed.
Um, Proceeding through the night, him and Rich get a call where they hear of an accident, which turns out to be the van, where they proceed to immediately bust out their cameras and get shots of Bill Paxton's character being dragged away. Rich is obviously in remorse and doesn't want anything to do with it, but he's
So
just gonna
Paxton
go ahead and
knows.
film it.
He gives him
He
the
knows
eyes,
what's
man.
going
He's
on.
like, oh yeah, he knows.
Yeah, he knows what's happening here, and Jake Gyllenhaal's just like looking him dead in the eyes. So he goes on to their next call, which is again, he gets ahead of the police. Don't know how he does it, but he's racing through the streets, gets ahead of the police, and proceeds to witness a multiple homicide as these two guys are going through the house and shooting people. He gets them filming as they leave, gets license plates, gets all the juice, goes in the house, and it's called the House of Horror for a reason. This whole scene was haunting, even up into this moment. It's like, oh God, don't tell me there's a baby in this scene. And thankfully,
See, I
there
have a
wasn't.
question. Where's the baby?
That's a great question. Where's the baby? Never answered.
One
Like-
thing that's never even asked. That's the
And
problem.
the-
Like they show all the journalism, all the cop stuff. Not one point do they say, "Oh my God, they've probably kidnapped this baby. There's probably a missing baby." None of that. There's just an empty crib
like
around a
they
bunch
talk
of
about
murdered
it as like,
people,
is
and they're
that
fine
is that
with it.
cradle empty? And even before the scene,
Like,
there
"Oh,
was
good,
like
the cradle's empty. It's like, what do you mean? "Oh,
before
good,
he
the
walks
cradle's
into the
empty?"
room, you could hear a baby crying, right? Like,
Yeah, it makes
like-
no sense, man.
yeah. So he gets a
Then
shot,
goes the
and then he like
masterful storytelling.
yeah, and then he bails by putting his hand on the rail. It's like, okay, that's a great way to get busted. Like everything he's doing here is massively illegal. Films this person who's still kind of alive.
Still alive, man.
And that's foreshadowing to more chaos. Gets back into the car with Rich, who's like, "What's going on?" They bail out, race past the cops, and he knows he's got the mother of all footage. She's thinking he's bailed, but he comes back to be like, "No, I've got the goods." They see what's happening, and they immediately are like, "Legal team, what's happening?" This is the Christian. This is basically the peak of Faye Dunaway's character from Network, where she's like, "No, we can make this work. How do we make this work? Let's just make this
Oh,
work."
I'm glad you brought this back to Network. So yeah, yes, okay. So Faye Dunaway created all of this. This is all because of Faye Dunaway. Whereas
Yeah.
it's sensationalism. It's just pure sensationalism. Like people in Rene Russo's coworkers here are even trying to tell her that. They're just like, are we okay here?
Yeah,
The
we shouldn't
lawyer's
do
like,
this, but
legally?
we're gonna do
She's
this.
like, no, morally. Of course legally. Like they don't care about morals. And then her coworker's just like, no, like journalistically and morally, we can't play this. Like
And she's like, "Fuck this, we're doing it anyway."
yeah, exactly. The fact
Yeah,
that
this
she
is the
knows and it keeps happening, it's gonna bring the cops down on all of them because they keep having all this insider friggin' footage to crimes, and of course it's gonna bring the cops down on them.
So she basically,
Yeah.
she goes to Jake Gyllenhaal's character and is like, "Okay, what do you want for this?" And he proceeds to lay down the laundry list of what he wants. He wants-
$100,000.
Yeah, he breaks it.
$100,000.
He goes from $100,000 and ultimately settles with $15,000. And he's like, "Listen, if I'm giving you the lowest number, that's the lowest number, and you're gonna pay it because of such and such. You're gonna do this and you're gonna do that. You're gonna do the things I tell you you're gonna do when we're home alone, and you're gonna introduce me to your coworkers, and you're gonna do all this." And she proceeds to give in to his demands, and
It
starts
throws in
following
the
in line.
Paxton footage for free.
Yeah, and throws in extra Paxton footage and stuff for free. And yeah, so they break the big news detail. They start showing all this stuff, and immediately cops are on it. And the whole time, this Loose Blooms guy's like, "This is me. This is it. I did this. Go ahead and come talk to me if you want." He's got this whole plan played out, and he sees to just seemingly play the cops and the detectives as they try and interrogate him and be like, "What were you doing there?" He's like, "I was just helping," even though he was just not. He was just being an exploitive shitbird.
He wants to come off to them as weird and despicable, but not incriminated. He's just like, so all the weird suspicions you have about me, it's all just because I'm weird and like antisocial and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So he
he's trying to
ultimately
put them off
decides
the
to go
scent.
back on the footage that he's got, and he decides to look up the license plate of these guys that were shooting, and then he proceeds to find their license plate and tracks them down. At which point he gives Rich the speech. Is like, listen, we're at a critical moment here. You're going to be vice president. And he's like, does vice president come with a raise? He's like, name a number, any number. And he starts with like 100. And then you think he's going to say like 100,000. And he goes with 75. And he's
thought he
like,
was gonna say
$75 a night. No worries. And you're just like, oh my God. Oh
They said, I
God,
could have
Rich,
got more,
why?
couldn't I? He's like,
Yeah, you probably could have. So they proceed to go, and and this is where Rich starts cluing into what they're doing. He realizes that they're tracking these fucking bona fide murderers, and he's like, "This is insane. What are we doing?" And he's like, "No, you're gonna clutch through." And they've tailed these guys until they're at a better location where he's like, "This is where we want to film them." And they follow him at a gas station. You think you're gonna be it, and my heart was in my throat. I'm like, what is like gonna happen here? What is he gonna do? Ultimately tails them to the gas station where he calls into the cops and he proceeds to tell them they have a gun and they should be there right away.
They're in
Yep, they're at the restaurant. And then he sets up his cameras and he just waits. And the tension of the scene, oh my God, I couldn't
This
stop
was a
watching.
tense scene.
It was
This
so
was a tense
intense.
scene.
The cops pull up and everything goes haywire. They start shooting like you would assume. Buddy goes busting out the window, gets in the
This
car.
movie was very predictable, though. That was my biggest issue with it.
It was
Like
predictable, but a lot of movies are.
all his character turns were very obvious. Like 5 minutes into this movie, I'm like, oh, he's gonna start like causing the crimes and shooting them. Like it was just seemed very obvious.
Well, that was kind of always like parlayed in the trailers and stuff. But yeah, he they get into this wild car chase through
was a bit
Laurel
wild.
Boulevard. Yeah, it was a great car chase, like even better than in Ronin, honestly. Like it was pretty sick.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't better than the Ronin one, but it was good.
I thought it was. I thought it was better paced than the Ronin ones. Like
Yeah, it was probably better paced, but it was
the
less
scene where like
realistic.
this
It was
scene,
just-
the scene where he like sideswipes the
cuts.
cop and they crash through and then he drives through. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of cuts, but at the same time. Anyway,
Well,
it
they
gets
do
through this
movies
crash
now,
scene.
It doesn't work.
This SUV is pulled over the cop or is flipped over. Jake Gyllenhaal gets out to film, and while he does that, he gets a good look and he calls in Rich and he's like, "Come here, get the shot." Rich calls over, and this scene honestly shocked the fuck out of me. I'm not gonna lie. Rich goes over with the camera. You see Buddy with the lights, and then he just bam, bam, shoots him
Look at
3
this,
times.
too. Yeah, that's the problem. I saw all this shit coming.
You how tell me how you saw this coming. You saw this exact scenario playing out.
Yes, once, just like right before it happened. As soon as he looks in and he says, "Hey, come over here," I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna get this guy shot by the guy in the car." Because
Honestly,
they didn't show the guy in the car, so it's just like, oh, so he's obviously still in there. Like,
well, yeah, he's still in there because he's in a vehicle. Like it's an upside
No,
down, but you
but
don't
like,
expect him
he's
to be
gonna-
conscious.
I did.
How did you possibly know that?
Because it's the pattern of this movie. It's how everything plays out. You have to suspect, like, it's almost trying to be too surprising, and therefore none of it's surprising. Like, it's like the obvious surprising thing, you know what I mean? And they always do the obvious surprising thing. So it's like, if obvious and surprising can be put in the same term like that. But I'm not bullshitting you, man. Like, I kept predicting everything, and then it would happen, and I was like, whatever. But then another scene that, like, even like the restaurant scene, it's just the way this movie plays out. You know everything that's going to happen. You know cops are going to
Yeah,
go
you
in,
know
they're gonna
everything's
pretend
going to
to
happen
get
because
stuff.
that's what
You
builds
know
on
he's
the
going to shoot at
tension.
the cops, and more cops are going to, like, there were very few surprising things, I felt like, in this movie. Not that a movie has to be built off surprises. Like I say, I like this movie.
Okay. Well,
But-
okay. I think it's wild that you weren't surprised by this scene because this scene actually shocked the hell out of me. I thought this scene was very surprising. I was
Also
shocked.
because he
And how-
tells Riz Ahmed in, like, literally the scene before this what he's going to do. He's like,
Well,
what
yeah,
if I
no, there's
told you I'm
foreshadowing
not just
that he's-
weird around people. I don't like them. And what if I told you I will hurt you because of what you just did? He just
Well,
like,
yeah,
they-
no,
they
he-
kill
he
all the
even said-
surprises.
No, I'm. Yes, if you're paying attention, there's a foreshadowing scene where he's like, if you don't tighten up, I'm gonna terminate you. Like, there's shit like that. Yes, but I'm
No,
not.
he
I'm
tells him he's
saying.
gonna hurt him.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying. Okay, for fuck's sakes, Davan. What I'm trying to say here is, yes, this scene particularly was not surprising because, yes, it was obvious that Riz Ahmed's character Rich was going to end up being hurt or killed. but the manner in which it happened, in my opinion, was shocking and surprising. And I find it bullshit that you think that you knew exactly what was going to happen, that this was going to
Yes,
play out
I did.
exactly like this.
And I'll just give you the other reason how I knew this. Like I said, not like 20 minutes before, but I certainly saw it all happen, so it wasn't a surprise. It's because the way this character that Jake Gyllenhaal plays works is he makes other people do his dirty business. So it's like he's never going to kill anyone with his bare hands. He fights that guy about the fence in the start of the movie, but other than that, he makes other people run into each other and do things to each other, like the cops and the criminals and the Bill Paxton, and like he makes, well, I mean, he did cut the brakes on Bill Paxton, so that he did himself, but like that's still like a little ambiguous. He doesn't know if that's going to achieve the goal he wants. He doesn't know this because he messes with Bill Paxton's car. It's going to end up in Bill Paxton being written off and out of the business, because that's what he wants. He wants Bill Paxton out of the way so he can get all the business. But no, like that's, I don't know. That scene to me was pretty obvious because it made no sense otherwise. Because he's already there with his camera shooting inside the car. Why does he need Riz Ahmed to come over and take the exact same shot? Like
Because he's setting him
it
up
was
for the
all
shot that he
very
wanted.
it was all very orchestrated. That scene. They could
Okay,
have done
listen,
just a couple of things different and made it like a little less foreshadowing.
Okay, so for you, I guess you're fucking Mr. Clairvoyant and you can see this bullshit. For me, I saw this scene and he's like, "Okay, come in and get an extra shot of the shot," because that's what he's been doing the entire movie. He's been getting him to come and get extra shots of the shot. They didn't frame
He's
it in
been
any
telling
way
him to
where
go
you're like,
get different shots. He's like, go down the street and get one from that angle, and I'll stay
well, no,
here.
he
He's
all he
never.
says he's like, "Come here and grab your camera." He's like, "Grab your camera and come here." You know, he doesn't tell him to stand at the exact. He eventually backs out of the place and then lets Rich just sort of wander around, which
He
leads to
hides
this, which
behind the other
shocked the
car.
fuck out of me. This scene
I assume
shocked
he
me.
saw
I was
Buddy coming
surprised.
too.
I was surprised. I didn't see this coming,
But
right?
see, but
So he
I
shoots
also,
him, and
here's the
anyway,
theory
I'm
I
gonna
have.
wrap up the.
He hired these guys. I think he hired these guys in the first place to go friggin' attack that house because they seem to
What?
recognize him.
What? No.
Yeah, that's a theory.
No, there's no way. That's a whack theory. Okay, they don't need. That's a
No.
whack theory because they even say after all this shit happens, after this guy walks out and they like he notices him with the camera, he decides not to shoot him because he recognizes
Exactly.
buddies with a camera. I'm assuming.
This
I
guy
don't
who
really
shot
know
had a
why.
camera in his hand because
I
he
know. I
recognized
don't
him.
think. I don't quite understand why. Maybe he's just like made eye contact and was like, "Fuck it, whatever."
There's
I'm
only
on
two
camera.
explanations. One, he was hired by him and recognizes him. The other is, which I think it's the first one. The other is just that he's like stunned and he hears cops coming. But that makes no sense because he just shot 3 shots at this other guy who was just looking at him harmlessly. So it's like it doesn't make sense unless he hired him.
I don't think that's the case. There's nothing at any point in the story that would lead me to believe that he was hiring these people to do any of this shit. Especially
I mean,
considering the
fact
later
that he's
scenes.
causing crimes to happen and accidents to happen.
Well, no,
isn't
he's not
enough for you?
causing crimes, but he's definitely not
He
he's
creates
interfering.
situations. That's what he does. He creates situations, and I think that's
Well,
just
he
the way
doesn't even
created
create
that situation.
situations though. He capitalizes
like-
on situations. He
He
alters
creates
situations
by,
like the
cutting
driving.
people's brakes and like
Okay, that one was created, but the other ones weren't. The other ones were
and taking
alterations.
his.
He stepped in.
What about his 911 call to the cops?
Okay,
That's
yeah, but
that's making a situation.
Okay, there's 2 moments where he creates a situation is when he fucking fixes Buddy's wheels and he calls the cops in because he wants the shot. Right? The other ones were alterations of a situation that he had nothing to do with. Right?
Except in this case, it's like you said when he was in that mansion. You're like, somehow he got there before the cops. It's like because he knew it was going to happen. They were waiting.
No, he got
outside
there
that friggin'
because-
place.
Well, no, he got there before the cops because there was the call, and cops are notorious for being fucking slow at getting to locations, and he drove there faster than he did, right? Explain this. If he hired them, right, and he knew what was going on, why the fuck did he jump in the bushes before they came out and drove away?
That's a good point.
Like, Why would he immediately
He wasn't
hide?
hiding very well, though. He really wasn't.
No,
fucking
he wasn't
very
hiding well, but he was hiding. He was hiding. If he hired these guys, he would just been like, "Hey guys, see you on the next one," and walk
Well,
in the building.
it's dark. They might not recognize him and just think it's somebody seeing them commit a crime and shoot them out of precaution.
He hid in the bushes to protect himself and get the shot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he did.
To protect
Right.
himself from being accidentally shot by the people he hired.
Again, if he knew he hired them and he was going to be there, why would he have any fear of them shooting him?
Because it's dark. They might.
It's
just
not
see...
dark. It wasn't dark in the driveway. There was a well-lit driveway.
It was very shadowy.
It was shadowy, but it was well lit enough that he could have.
Faces.
No, in the areas of where the truck was, you could see their faces. Okay, we're getting into a diatribe of fucking nothing right now.
Finish the plot synopsis.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, so
We're
yeah,
almost
our
there.
man gets shot by the police because he pulls on them and they shoot him. Jake Gyllenhaal gets the shots and he proceeds to film Rich die and bleed out because he knows it's money. And then he goes back to KTLA and he's like, "Hey, you guys are having a great day. It's just another day of business. It's just another Tuesday for Louis Bloom because he's got all this money." He brings it to her, Renee Russo's character. She loves it. She's all on board and she's back in every movie he does. And the police come in and they're like, "We want this footage. This is ours." KTLA blocks them because legally it's theirs. And they're like, "We want to know the guy." And she's like, "I don't know where he's at." And they're like, "Oh, well, he happens to be in the studio." At this moment, I thought she was selling him out. I was like, "Okay, he's at the river," right? But no, he at this point, we get the other producer come in and he says that the home invasion was actually a drug run. There was like cocaine and all that stuff in the house, and it was actually...
This is how he set it up. I think he told people there were drugs in the house, and boom. But who knows?
What they found cocaine. How would he know there's cocaine in the house?
He pays attention. He might know those people. Who the fuck knows?
What fucking asshole theory are you pulling out of your fucking ass right now? Are you kidding me?
No,
This is asinine, dude. Sorry, no, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. That's the most bullshit theory. No, that completely ruins the movie if you honestly think that he's like, "No, I hired this and set it up."
Did that look like a drug den to you? Did that house look like that old dude dead on the floor look like a guy who's got friggin' cocaine in the walls?
I don't know. How many did you
didn't.
watch Breaking Bad? How many times was that a thing?
No, I did. That was a dumb show. I watched 2 episodes.
You never shut your lips. Do not tell me you think Breaking Bad is a dumb show.
It's a dumb show.
Oh my God, Davin. You have no idea that is one of the best shows on television. What point did you stop watching Breaking Bad?
2 episodes in when I couldn't handle it.
You're fucking bullshit. You're bullshit, sir. You get no opinion on Breaking Bad because you tapped out 2 episodes in. You get no opinion, sir. Fuck you and your bullshit. We are going to have a goddamn podcast where I'm going to make you watch every episode of Breaking Bad. Every single one. And we're going to go back and forth on it. Oh, it's going to happen, Davin. I swear to God, before God and earth and every member of the UFP, you and I are going to have a Breaking Bad podcast. And by the end of that podcast, you're going to see why that is one of the greatest shows on earth. I can't believe you just told me this right now. I can't believe. Shut your fucking lips. You don't get any opinion on Breaking Bad. You don't get a single fucking opinion on Breaking Bad. You watch 2 episodes. Your words are useless. They are meaningless and they are nothing. Not a goddamn word from you about Breaking Bad means anything on this earth until we watch every episode in a podcast. And you can tell me then. You can tell me then. Until, nope. No, you can say it's silly all you want. You can say it all you want. You can say it's silly, but it doesn't matter. It's useless. Everything you've ever said is useless and completely pointless because you just said that about Breaking Bad. And you can't speak on Breaking Bad after watching 2 episodes. You're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. You're fucked. You're sorry, sir. You're fucked. I love you, but you're fucked. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Every member of UFP, I want you right now to recognize I will make this man watch all of Breaking Bad, and we will podcast
the only
about
UFP
it.
member that doesn't like that show, right?
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
I'm not surprised that you're the only UFP member that doesn't like that show.
I'm not the only UFP member that thinks that show is stupid.
Well, what? This is
The whole
derailed
show,
everything
like,
I've been talking
glorifies,
about.
like drug culture. It was silly. Like as soon as like the
Disgusting.
friggin' side
Deplorable.
character like sniffed Buddy's
No,
meth and it's just
no,
like
no,
you're an
no,
honest-
no,
I was
no.
done
You don't
with
get
that
words.
show.
You don't get
It
words,
was
sir.
friggin'
None of your
stupid.
words matter. This is completely sidetracked.
And-
This is for another day. This is for another day. This is a discussion for another day. A hard day. God damn it. Back to the show. Anyway, so our
Everyone in
characters
any
go
sense
from
I've
the
ever
ability
described that
to
show, say the
no,
character's
back to the
motivations make
show.
no
So
sense.
anyway, our characters
Yeah.
decide that the cocaine is it was a house and that was the true story, but she doesn't want to run it. She says save it for the noon news. And that we get into an interrogation scene with Louis Bloom and the detective. Louis Bloom just lays it all out, and he's like, "Yeah, if you meet me, it's the worst day of your life. It's just a shame. Don't want to do that." And he proceeds to walk away scot free. Absolutely, and proceeds to run his own video production news company. He gets interns, he gets multiple vans, and he proceeds to spread his infection across
Interns,
LA.
that made me laugh.
And,
I
and
don't
that's
wanna
the
pay
end
fucking
of
anybody.
Nightcrawler. You son of a bitch! I can't believe you never watched Breaking Bad.
Sucked. I don't care
No,
about
it
shit
didn't.
like that.
2 episodes. You can't say that about Breaking Bad. 2 episodes in it. No.
That's enough.
No.
That's enough.
You're wrong.
I'm not gonna
You're
fucking
wrong.
watch 10 episodes of something to just
Dude,
further
no.
entrench my
Dude,
not dislike of it.
No. No.
Just getting a
Nope.
show to intrigue
Nope.
me with the first 2 episodes is not a big ask. You shouldn't have to watch 10 episodes of something to start to like it.
You don't need 10 episodes of Breaking Bad to start to like it. I can guarantee you'll probably be starting to like it by the 5th.
I doubt it. Anyway,
Jesus Christ. Anyway,
what
so that
scene
was
would you
Nightcrawler.
hold up?
You know what? The scene that I held
Movie
up.
got lost his shit again. I'm telling you, nobody can poke the
You
bear like me.
Yeah, you're bullshit with Breaking Bad. You can't believe you besmirched Jerry and Gilliam's work. This is wait, no, is this it? Yeah, this is it. This is my favorite scene, which is basically the intro scene, where he talks about
I'm
who
looking
he
for a
is.
job. In fact,
Oh,
I made up my mind
the
to find a career
scrapyard scene's
that
your
I can learn
favorite
and
scene?
grow into. Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals.
I
and I've been
do.
told that I'm persistent.
I like this scene because I
Now,
can
I'm not
relate to
fooling
this.
Myself, sir.
Oh,
Having been raised
I
with the
liked it.
self-esteem movement so popular in schools, I used to expect my needs to be considered. But I know that today's work culture no longer caters to the job loyalty that could be promised to earlier generations. What I believe, sir, is that
He's
good
just
things
so
come to
full of
those who work
shit.
their asses off.
Like I wouldn't
Oh, I
hire
know.
him
You
either.
yourself who
He's
reached the
so
top of the
full of
mountain
shit.
didn't just fall there. My motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket.
Yes, there's the line.
Did I say that I worked in a garage?
Which is a lie. He's never worked
Tomorrow,
anywhere.
or
Like he
you
just
went
stays
out
home
tonight?
and reads the internet.
No.
Like that's what he does.
They don't really allude to what he does, which is one
I
of the
think
better part
that's
of
the
the story.
illusion they make. Like he's this obsessive person who just like stays home and
How
absorbs
about an
information.
internship then? A lot of young people are taking unpaid positions to get a foot in the door. That's something I'd be willing to do.
I'm not hiring a fucking thing.
Like he strikes me as someone who's not only like a sociopath, but like maybe also on the spectrum.
Well, yeah, he's very Asperger's-y in his own sense, but
Mm,
he's also very sucked into his own game. Your scene that you say would hold up was with the one with Bill Paxton trying to hire
Just
him.
because I love Bill Paxton, and this was the most Paxton of all the Bill Paxton scenes. Like he's 100% Pax in this scene.
Yeah, well, this is his media scene
man,
for
Joe
sure.
Loader.
This is the one that got him the
Mayhem.
most lines.
Great get tonight.
He's so fucking charming. Like he's the opposite of Jake Gyllenhaal. I see
waiting for me
friggin'
out
Bill
here?
Paxton and I smile. I see
Well,
Jake
drop by and
Gyllenhaal.
saw
Like,
your car. Man, you're not dropping your shit off, are you? Nobody does that.
Adam
Use
Driver
your
has the
card
same
if you wanna
effect
be
on
in
me.
the
I see
game.
Adam Driver and I'm like,
Import the video to your laptop, cut the video, upload to your FTP site, and notify stations you got something for sale.
You're aggravating.
Boom, boom, boom. Otherwise, it's a nice ride. Listen, man, you got a good run going, but there's valleys out there. Take it from me, I've been night crawling 14 years. You heard I'm adding a second
it's the only
van.
time they use
Right,
that term
I
in
hear
the
that.
movie.
Gotta be a
It's
game
true,
changer.
yeah.
Cut my on-scene time in half. I'm setting up a dedicated dispatch too. No more listening.
It's funny,
and
this
driving
whole
after
scene is just
suckers.
like him being like, oh,
Like
wow, this is a
Cam
great
305s?
idea. I should take this.
Never used one.
6 thou a piece.
But he doesn't show his
2.4
cars by doing
megapixels,
that.
night
How do you
vision,
need a dedicated
18 to 1
dispatch when
zoom.
your
I got
vans
one
all
of those
have
puppies
police
with your name on
scanners?
it.
I have a camera.
I want you
So he
running
doesn't
my
have to go
second
driving
van.
around
Two
town.
crews. Half the
Wouldn't
area
you rather
gets
sit at
driving
home
around.
dispatching vans and
Half the
making
money,
money
right?
instead of driving
Oh,
around
if he's
town?
the dispatch
Twice the
guy.
sales.
Okay.
Because we're gonna
Yeah.
be the first at every scene. If I compete, we can work together. Can share my press cards, puppy dog off my police connections. This is the big move. The next
The police
level.
connections would have been
Point of
good
this
to
whole
have.
thing, I'm talking about putting some heavy
He's giving him a
digits in
good
my pocket,
offer,
bro.
like a really
Thank you
good
for offering me
friggin'
the
offer.
It
position.
is a really good offer.
Myself is
Yeah.
more
But
in
he's
line with
too
my skills
egotistical and
goals.
sociopathic to take it.
He could never work for somebody.
Take a few days to think about it.
No,
It's true.
you'll need to hire someone else, and I don't want to hold up the process.
You want to be on the inside of this, man, because I'm going to be tag teaming every call.
You keep talking like it's something that I
Care
may be
about what you're
interested
saying.
in, but I'm not.
You don't even understand the offer. If you did, you'd be fucking sucking my dick. You asking me questions. What does this mean? What does that mean?
That was the most
I
Bill
feel
Paxton
like-
shit ever.
Grabbing you by your ears right now and screaming
this
in your
line.
face. I'm not fucking interested.
I've wanted to say that line to a
Instead,
few
I'm
people
gonna
before.
drive home and do some accounting.
He's like, but I'm not gonna do that. Yeah.
Fuck you.
Twerp.
Twerp.
Twerp. Yeah. He is a twerp. Yeah, that was a good
Paxton's a
scene.
twerp fan.
Bill Paxton's great. All right.
So yeah. Yeah, Bill Paxton was one of the greatest. Game over, man! Game over!
Said, hey Sanchez, you ever get mistaken for a dude? She's like, have you? That was a classic line from Aliens. Aliens. Well, what performance would you hold up? Some good performances in this one.
there were
But
a
like I
lot of
say,
good
like it's
performances.
95% Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a bit much.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? For me, I enjoyed that. You know, I was down with the Gyllenhaal. I've always been down with Gyllenhaal. I liked him. I liked him in Donnie Darko. I liked him in Jarhead. I liked him in, you know, I like him in a lot of movies, you know. So yeah, for me, Gyllenhaal was great, but also Riz Ahmed's Rich. He really his portrayal of the character was really well done, and I liked that a lot. Yeah, so
Yeah, I would have liked more of that character. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give it to the Pax. I like the bit. He was straight up Paxing.
yeah, yeah. It would
you
have been
know
nice
what?
to have more Bill Paxton in the film.
But
Uh,
Renee Renuso was really good though too.
Yeah, she was great. She was
Her
great.
character
The
was horrible. She was just Faye Dunaway. But
Yeah, she was modern. You know, Faye Dunaway's Christina. Diana
Christensen.
Christ.
Diane
Yeah,
Christensen.
Diana Christensen. Yeah, but yeah, no, it was, you know, she was great. She knocked it out of the park, and the chemistry between her and Jake Gyllenhaal was really good, like in
Yeah, I
all of their
agree.
scenes.
Like not in a romantic way, but as far
No,
as
but
acting
just
chemistry.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like the back and forth was.
But honestly, I've never seen an actor Renee Russo didn't have chemistry with. There's something very real about her performances, I find. She always comes off like, even as like something fantastical like Thor's mother in the Thor movie, she's still super like grounded in her performances, and it's like
Mhm.
brought some seriousness and some weight to some of the lesser Thor movies.
True, yeah, I would agree. She also, yeah, she did a great job in this film. Honestly, like there was a small cast, but every cast member really like held their own. Right? It was a really good film.
It's like in the opening credits they list off like 5 actors, and then the movie starts. I'm like, is that it? Actors, okay.
Fair enough.
But yeah, all right. The setting aesthetic looked good. Too many cuts,
Yeah.
but that's modern movies for you.
I had no problems with the cuts. I thought it was
I don't
really
like
well
when
paced
action
and edited
is-
film.
Like I'd rather just look at an action scene in a static shot. Like maybe not one static shot, but you get the idea. Rather than just
You
like
can't
all
all
these
get
cuts
Jackie
that are just
Chan
there.
action scenes though.
I
Not
understand
every film
that,
will do
but-
that.
I understand, but it's just I don't like the other way as well. Like a fight scene, How many hand-to-hand fight scenes are just all cuts, so you don't actually have to see anybody doing fighting? You know,
Yeah, but I don't.
that's
again,
what
I
made
don't
that
feel-
Daredevil scene in season 1 of Daredevil so great. You know, that single shot.
The
hallway
hallway
fight.
scene. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what made that so great. Which apparently
No,
there
I
were
mean,
some
don't
phantom
get me
cuts in
wrong.
there.
See, this baffles me why you're like, Breaking Bad's a terrible show. I'm gonna make you eat those words, sir. I'm gonna make you eat those friggin' words.
You won't. You won't.
Yes,
The
I
theme. The
will.
theme's not there for me, man. It's not a theme I would enjoy. there's nothing there for me. It's something has to have something to do with like something I care about for me to be interested in
You
it
you you
generally. It's why
can't
I
care
watch.
about the story of a man who's given terminal cancer and is like, I
No,
need to
because
make
none
money
of it,
any
because I
way I
know enough
can.
about that show to know that none of his motivations make sense. And that's the biggest criticism you'll hear of that show is that his like Breaking Bad makes no sense. Like it's just like unbelievable, unrealistic decision after unrealistic decision.
It does make all the sense by the time you get
Yeah.
to the final episode.
Well, like again, you shouldn't have to watch seasons of shit for it start to make sense. But
What the
getting
fuck
morsels
are
for
you
us?
saying?
You said it'll make sense by the final episode. I'm like, I don't want to
No,
wait
I'm
that long.
saying by the final episode, all of his motivations make sense because that's the culmination of the entire story. The end of the story.
Yeah.
Fucking don't shake your head at me, sir. Don't give me that fucking dismissive bullshit. You are so incredibly fucked.
I'll let you have a conversation with somebody who has watched it and still agrees with me, and then you'll have a conversation there. Hit us with some morsels, Murph.
Oh my god, I'm so worked
Can't
up
imagine
about
there's too
this.
many for this movie. You get worked up easily. It's
There
part of the
wasn't
show.
there was a fair amount, but yeah, it is a pressure show. Anyway, so Nightcrawler. Wait, we gotta intro. Blah.
Like
2014.
Andre listened to the first episode of our podcast. He sends me a message. He's like, Murphy's really antagonistic. I'm like, mm-hmm. You make me out to be the bad guy. It's you, buddy. Anyway, continue with your morsels.
You know why I get antagonistic? Because somebody keeps interrupting me every time I try to have a cohesive thought. 2014's Nightcrawler, during the scene where
lag.
Jake Gyllenhaal screws fucking sakes. During the scene where Jake Gyllenhaal screams at himself in the mirror, Gyllenhaal got so into the improvised scene that the mirror broke, cutting his hand. He wasn't actually meant to break the mirror. He just got so into it.
Shit.
No,
I call
he really
bullshit.
he wasn't
I'm
meant to
calling
break the
bullshit on that
mirror.
morsel. Bullshit. It's
All right,
too cheesy a scene for it not to have been on purpose. It's so cheesy. Like if it wasn't
cut
meant to
his
be in there,
hand.
they could have just put another mirror up and have him not.
Okay, well, you know, if he wasn't meant to break the mirror, then how come he cut his hand and he was driven to the hospital by the director after a 19-hour day of working, and they got 46 stitches in a 4-hour-long operation?
Well, I didn't
Then
say he meant to cut his hand.
Well,
He
I
was
mean,
supposed to cut his hand.
if he's breaking a mirror, he's not going to cut his hand. If he's meant to break the mirror, he's not going to cut his hand. He wasn't meant to break the mirror.
Showbiz ways to do that. Well, maybe.
There are showbiz ways to break a mirror.
Yeah.
There are safe ways to break a mirror, but the way he broke the mirror was unintentional, and therefore he cut his hand and got what was it, 46 stitches. This
That's pretty method.
Yeah, they ended returning to the set 6 hours after being discharged. This is the reason why Gyllenhaal has a hand behind his back in the scene where he tells the scrapyard owner his motto. So the whole scene he has his hand behind his back is because he's got his hand wrapped up in stitches and shit. Director Dan Gilroy on the impetus for the film. I think to some degree it's certainly an indictment of local television news, but I'd like to cast a wider net in the sense that all of us really watch these images. I would hope that maybe a viewer would take it further and maybe go, why do I watch these images, and how many of these images do I want to put into my own spirit?
See, exactly, which is why I don't view those types of images. Like, people scour the internet for fucking horrible shit all the time. I actively avoid such things. Even, like, the news. Like, you even have to limit how much news you allow into your life. Like, how much bad news that you can't do anything about do you really need to hear? One of the wisest people I ever knew, a mentor of mine, told me that. He's just like, I don't read the news. Like, why do I need to know something's horrible's happened to somebody that I can't do anything about? Like, what good does it do them? What good does it do me? And there's a certain point where you can't be ignorant to everything because nothing will ever change. But there's a middle ground there where you don't need to friggin' torture porn yourself to death. And like, there's a reason there's so much mental illness and depression and stuff these days. It's like it's self-inflicted to a large degree.
It's all because of, Faye Dunaway.
It's the internet.
Um,
Man, the real. I was about to say there, the real reason he decided to make this movie is he saw Network on TV, and it's like, oh, I could do that. Make Network.
Several actors auditioned for the character of Rick, but while most played him as a laid-back, pot-smoking surfer dude, Dan loved how Ahmed's audition played him for Satter, which I also appreciated.
But again, we needed more from that character because what was his deal? Was he on drugs? Was he like? They
Well,
give us
no, he
nothing
wasn't.
about his character.
He wasn't
They need
on
to give us
drugs. He was
something.
just. Well, no, he wasn't on drugs. He was just a homeless LA native.
No, but
which
it's not just a homeless LA native. He asked him. He's just like, "What do you do for work?" He's like, "Well, I did this for a week. I did this for a week. Did this for a week. Usually nothing longer than a week." There's a reason you're being fired every week, and that's the part of the character I feel like they should have gave us. Like, just give us one scene to show us why this person is in this very exploitable and manipulative position
situation. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's
like, give
fair. I
us
agree with
something.
that. Yeah, I agree with that.
And the same with Renee Russo. Like, they didn't really give us any kind of backstory or anything for her character either. She's somewhat principled in the beginning, and then after like a couple of apartment dates with Jake Gyllenhaal, she's like completely like corrupted, which was like one of the characters even comments on it. She's just like, "You sound like him now. You sound like Lou." Like,
Yeah.
and that was a bit abrupt too. Other than like, it's a bit of.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of time
character stuff
jumping
that
in this
didn't work.
film, so what feels like
True.
abrupt could have been time
Too
passed.
much, maybe a bit too much time jump.
This film was based partially on the career of Arthur Weegee Felige, the first photojournalist who was well known for reaching crime scenes quickly by tuning into police radio broadcasts. The film was shot over 28 nights, and after the scene in which Lou shows the newsroom his house horror footage, the broadcast director cuts to break on a Bird's Eye food commercial featuring wolves. The movie follows this theme of predatory animals in its depiction of Lou, and the commercial ends with the slogan, "Dinner is complete," as the horror house story is Lou's big break into the world of stringer journalism. The diner scene with the two shooters eating within saw competing opinions from the film's technical police advisors. One said the police would wait for backup and then enter in a line, shotguns at the ready. But another recalled that when he was a street cop, he and his partner would enter the establishment and order at the counter as a way of vetting the veracity of the call. They went with the latter as to aid the suspense better, which, like, it did. It was a very suspenseful scene. The film's climax was filmed on Laurel Canyon Boulevard in the San Fernando Valley, over several blocks away from the location of the infamous shootout in 1997 between two heavily armed bank robbers and LA police, in which both robbers were killed.
Movie Heat.
They closed down. Yeah, you didn't know about this?
Well, I know that was what the movie Heat was based on. Yeah.
Yeah, Heat's based off of that same scenario. They closed down 10 blocks of Laurel Boulevard for a few nights to capture the police chase. Writer-director Dan Gilroy came up with the idea for the film after he heard about a crime reporter in the 1930s who was the first to put a police scanner in his car and take photos of crime and accident scenes and then sell them to the papers. I thought it was a very interesting...
Don't lie to me, Dan Gilroy.
No, I thought it was a very interesting intersection between commerce and crime. Before I could do anything with it, Joe Pesci made a film called The Public Eye, which effectively killed that specific idea. He moved to LA afterward and learned about the present-day Nightcrawlers, which became the basis for the story. Dan knew he wanted to direct the film after writing it, and as it would be his directorial debut, he turned to his brother Tony for help. He sent the script to Tony, who thought Dan wanted him to direct, and Tony reluctantly began convincing himself to do so as he was on a break from filmmaking, but a call to Dan cleared that up in confusion, and Tony happily supported his brother's moving into the directing. They filmed early newsroom scenes at Los Angeles and KTLA studios. They were going to kick us out if the big story broke, is what Dan Gilroy said. The line, "You have to make the money to buy a ticket," only appears once in the movie, but Jake Gyllenhaal insisted on recording it on all the different sets and different styles because he knew it would work well in the trailer. They compare the news sequence where Lou's home invasion footage is broadcast with the news anchor's commentary guided by Nina's voice in the ear, similar to a scene producer in the earpiece in James L. Brooks' masterpiece Broadcast News in 1987. An age gap relationship with the woman as the senior partner is very, very rarely shown in Hollywood movies. It is interesting to note that the intercourse between Nina and Lewis is only alluded to, although a sexual relationship is alluded to in a couple of conversations between Lewis and Nina, and the two actors never make any physical contact with each other aside from shaking hands.
Even alluded to, but
Well, yeah. During a Q&A, director Dan Gilroy stated that he views Lewis' insane drive as an infection that spreads to each character Lou interacts with throughout the film. And at the closing of the film, where Lou's company vans are parting ways down different streets, is, as Gilroy describes, the infection spreading through the veins of the city.
yeah, fair.
Yeah. When Lewis upgrades to the Dodge Challenger, Rick spills gas on the new car while filling up the tank. Lewis chastises him for it and threatens to terminate him, foreshadowing his fate when Lou intentionally leads Rick into getting shot right near the end of the film as he threatens to compromise the operation. This film is not related to Marvel Comics character Nightcrawler, who is a member of the
course not.
X-Men. However, several actors from this film would later collaborate with Marvel projects. Jake Gyllenhaal played Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home from 2019, and Rene Russo played Frigg in the MCU films Thor, Thor the Dark World, and Avengers Endgame. And Riz Ahmed would play Carlton Drake or / Riot
It's
in
not a
Sony's
Marvel
Venom
movie. We don't talk about Venom. We don't talk.
in 2018.
We
The
don't put Venom in the
filmmakers-
same sentence as other good superhero movies or anything like that. Sony monstrosity.
Fair enough, I guess. I enjoyed Venom. The filmmakers made a point of not having Lou Bloom undergo a character.
The way
arc.
you just hollered at me about Breaking Bad, I could send right back at you right now about Venom there, bud. But I have class. So continue.
There's far more to talk about Breaking Bad than Venom. Like, Venom's a terrible film, but I enjoyed watching it.
Exactly. Terrible.
The
Very.
filmmakers made a point of not having Lou Bloom undergo a character arc because they felt he would have become a certain type of person and stayed that way as an adult. That was also why the initial scene has Lou assaulting and robbing a security guard. It was important that the audience not feel Lou become a worse person because of his work as a Nightcrawler, but instead recognize he was malevolent from the start. Jake Gyllenhaal did most of his own driving scenes, including the climactic car chase at the end. Cinematography by Robert Elswit, edited by John Gilroy, music by James Newton Howard. The release date of October 31st, 2014. Its running time of 117 minutes with a budget of $8.5 million. It made a box office of $50.3 million, the most
good
money
take.
out of all three films.
It's the newest, of course it did. But rewatchability, no. I'm not gonna rewatch this movie.
I would rewatch this movie.
No, there's nothing. It lacks. It was well done. Like, I'm gonna jump ahead here for a second. Does it hold up? Yes, it does. But would I watch it again? No. It's a good movie, but it lacks depth. I find, like, there's no depth of character. There's nothing to really, like,
It's not meant to be.
attach yourself. No, but there's nothing to, like, attach yourself to want to see again. Like, when I go back to see a movie, like when we were talking about would we go back and see Network? Yes, because of characters like Beale and Ned Beatty. It's just like those are memorable characters you want to see again. And it's like you say, there is no character arc with the main character in this movie, and that main character is in 98% of the movie. So it left me feeling sort of like a little bit flat and empty at the end of it. It's well, while you're watching it, it's very exciting and stuff. But when it's over, you know, it's just like, okay.
See, I don't
That
know.
was my
I
feeling.
could rewatch this film because for me, like I strongly relate to the character because of my personal profession. Um, and due to that, I feel like there's rewatchability in the film for me. I found it exciting. I found it put me on the edge of my seat. I found it terrifying
Those
at certain
things.
moments. Um, there's certain scenes I would love to rewatch again now that I know how they played out because I would like to actually pay attention to how they potentially filmed and or made those scenes. Um, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I'd rewatch this film, and the lack of character um, isn't a down spot for me because I feel like they wanted to focus more on the morality of what was happening in the film, which is these guys that go to these crash scenes and film these things that probably shouldn't be filmed, only to force feed and propagate, the fear machine that is media and journalism.
All right. Does it
Um,
hold up? Make it quick, though. I had us on good schedule for a 2-hour podcast till you yelled at me about Breaking Bad. Now,
no, I was on good schedule, and then you started tearing me off when I was trying to do my plot like you do every episode. So yeah, it does hold up for me. Um,
yeah, it
it's
holds
a
up. It's a
great
good movie.
great movie. Yeah.
Journalism movie rankings.
I mean, for
I
me,
mean,
it's
The Year of
Nightcrawler,
Living
Network,
Dangerously is
and
at the bottom.
yeah, it's Nightcrawler and Network for me, and then Year of Living Dangerously at the bottom.
I'm gonna have to give the number one spot to Network just because it had more rewatchability for me. But
Okay.
that's
You
about
just
it.
don't want to give into the fact that a modern movie was entertaining,
No, it
and give it the top
was.
spot.
I think I I enjoyed it more, but it was also like, a high octane kind of movie. It's supposed to excite you more than Network. But as far as like memorable scenes and rewatchability, though, I have to give it to Network.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like for a memorable scene for Nightcrawler, I had to pick out some rando Bill Paxton scene because other than that, there weren't any particular scenes that really jumped out at me. But the cop thing was tense. I will admit, the cop scene in the restaurant was freaking tense. Yeah. Even though it
Yeah,
was
the restaurant,
obvious what
him
was going to
walking up to
happen.
the house, him
Yeah.
crawling into
The
a
house
house
one
as
didn't.
there's.
That one didn't really do it for me. The house one.
For me, I was like, "What are you doing, guy? What are you doing, guy? Stop! What are you doing, guy?" Like that's what I was like when I was watching that scene.
Well, but we've got another addition to two A movies tonight. Nightcrawler and a lowly C movie. All right, Murphy, hit us with the trailers. Let's end this 3-hour podcast. Next time will be 2 hours. Trust me, everybody.
It's this
I have
thing's
some
never getting
notes.
less than 3 hours.
I
It's
have
never getting less
ways.
than three. You like
I have ways. We'll discuss
not
them after the
happening.
show. I have ways.
Right.
All
Well,
right,
we've got
but
coming
Nightcrawler.
attractions, but
There it
before
is.
we get to those, or what you got? What are you doing? Okay.
Nothing. Just
Okay.
showing the A movies.
Okay. Well, anyway, this has been a somewhat contentious show about journalism and holding up movies and all that good stuff, and that's what we do at this podcast because we're part of a united federation of podcasts. Where we talk about all sorts of sweet things like Star Trek over at Live Long and Podcasts, where they got their commands divisions, and there are other divisions where they talk about things, including Locutors of Trek, which gets in the deeper, darker, nitty gritty parts of space with their probes and all that jazz. We got a fine crew there. You should definitely be checking us out if you love your Star Trek. If you love horror, we've got the Hellbound podcast, horror movie podcast with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan. These guys do it. I don't know, how often are they? Do you know, Davan? Once a month, isn't it? Give or take.
Well, every week. No, it's way more than that. It's like every couple
Yeah.
of weeks, I think. But every weekend now, they do like these mini reviews, like 3-minute movie reviews, like that come out on Saturdays.
Rock on. So Michael Chance was also on the Graphic History podcast with Andre Mayette. A two-parter that's
Recently,
just
yeah.
been released. Should
No,
definitely
that
be
was a
checking that out.
one-parter.
Oh, it was a one-parter? Oh, he had a two-parter with Frank Forrestal. That's right. Andre is also a host of the X-Men X-Rated podcast, which is the X-Men animated review show. You guys were just watching Nightcrawler, were you not?
It was quite apropos this week. Indeed.
Yeah. And speaking apropos, you got your folks over at Super Mario Brothers podcast talking about all things reality TV with Big Brother Survivor Series. I think they're doing the Big Brothers recently, so you want to check that out. We've
Tonight,
got
I think.
KBBBL podcast. The extra B is for BYOBB.
It is. We're finishing up
talk-
season 1 on Friday.
Oh yeah, because it's that
Yeah.
time already.
Yeah,
How many
well,
episodes
it's only
is that?
13 episodes in the first season.
Okay, that's good. And we also got trivial debates where people come in and we debate things. Our recent episode, the love theme episode, where Davan was a host, and well, he did not best as well as he hoped.
wasn't the
Let's just
host.
put it that way. Or no, he wasn't the host. He was a guest. We had Eamon Mater as a host. Davan was.
No,
a
I
guest.
did. I was robbed.
Yeah, well, Jody and Jessica, they brought a good fight to the table. You should check that out.
Jody
the
yelled at
Trivial
me
Debates.
on that show just like Murphy did on this show. I get yelled at wherever I go. I'm a bit picked on here in the United Federation of Bullies.
It is what it is, He's a man that really pushes us up the hill sometimes when we don't want to be pushed up the hill, but we appreciate him for it. So sometimes we just yell at him because he's pushing us. That's why we yell
And I
at
can
him.
take it.
Yeah, he can take it and he can give it just as much as he can take it. But yeah, that's about all here we've had going. We talk journalism, and on the next episode of Hold Up, we're gonna be diving into the deep, wide world
TV?
of TV, television, as we're gonna be covering films like UHF.
Murphy's
and-
forcing me to watch Weird Al for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
I can't believe you haven't watched this. Have you even watched the trailer for this? You're about to, because we're gonna watch Coming Attractions. Thank you for your time and enjoy
Thanks,
the movies.
everybody.
See you next episode.
Have you seen Stay Tuned before?
No,
Oh, you're in for a treat, bud. You are
Well,
in for
I
a
am.
treat.
I am.
Guns don't kill people. I do.